These Democratic Socialists at another of their conventions, they were told to make jazz hands instead of clapping, lest some delegates suffer sensory overload. This is who the Democrats are thinking of following. You know, Chuck Schumer ain't perfect, but at least he doesn't crumple into a heap when confronted with Chanel number 5. The Democratic Socialists talk about socialism like we don't already have a lot. Just the same question. How can you be soaking the rich and failing the poor so badly?
Now let's talk about Bill Maher just lost it completely and honestly. Good, because somebody needed to. The Democratic Socialists are not knocking on the door of the DNC anymore. They are already inside, rearranging the furniture, and Bill Maher is standing there watching it happen with his jaw on the floor. He says if America lets this go unchecked, the Democratic Party does not just lose elections, it disappears entirely. So Bill Maher did what he always does when things get scary. He started talking, loudly, ferociously. Stay tuned.
It turned one of Latin America's richest countries into one of its poorest. Low wages, high inflation, shortages, outages, 8 million people fleeing. If you think New York can somehow reinvent this wheel, you're in for a rude awakening. Zoran can't make your wishes come true. You're thinking of Zoltar. Democratic socialism is like a dating profile. Things look great until you meet up in the real world.
Bill Maher has one message for every Democrat breathing right now, and it is not a gentle suggestion. Democratic socialism, he says, is the most beautifully wrapped trap in the history of American politics. It sounds like a dream. Take money from the greedy billionaires, give it to the people struggling to survive, make healthcare free for everyone, and finally close that obscene gap between the mega-rich and the barely making it crowd. Bill Maher admits it. It sounds incredible. Honestly, who could argue with that? He could, and he does, hard. Because Bill Maher says the moment you strip away those gorgeous-sounding promises and actually look at what socialist governments have delivered across history, the dream evaporates instantly. What replaces it is not paradise. It is poverty. Not equality, collapse, not freedom, control. Bill Maher is not interested in how beautiful the idea sounds. He is interested in where it always ends. And it always ends the same ugly way.
Paid to the government if you add in state tax, local, sales, property, fees, Obamacare, probably almost 60% of what I earn. That's a lot, and I still wouldn't mind if Bernie Sanders would stop saying the rich don't pay taxes. And while I'm sure the super rich with their army of accountants and corporate loopholes get away with murder, us regular rich people pay a shit ton of taxes. And who stands up and gives us a pat on the back? Nobody, that's who.
Bill Maher went straight for Bernie Sanders, and this time it was personal. Because Bill Maher is not just some commentator complaining from a distance. He actually writes those monster tax checks every single year. Real money, enormous money, handed directly to the government with zero hesitation. And then Bill Maher does something that socialist politicians apparently never bother doing. He looks around and asks, okay, where did it go? Roads are falling apart. Schools are still underfunded. The systems that are supposed to work keep failing the exact people they promise to help. And yet the socialist solution never changes, never evolves, never even pauses for thought. Tax the rich. That is the entire playbook. Every time, without exception. One answer for every problem. Bill Maher finds that terrifying because he has been paying into this machine for decades now, and he cannot find a single dollar worth of results. So where Bill Maher demands, did the last batch go?
Bernie, AOC, Mandani are not Democrats. They'll be the first to tell you that. They're Democratic Socialists, and that's a very different thing, and I don't think people know that yet. I don't think people realize we already have a lot of socialism. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, unemployment insurance, food stamps, veterans benefits, Pell Grants, COVID-era payments, farm subsidies, disability payments, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, corporate bailouts, and the jobs program that is building weapons the Pentagon doesn't even want. All that is socialism, much of it appropriate to soften the edges of capitalism.
Bill Maher makes a move here that completely silences the room, and it should, because his argument is not theoretical. It is already standing right in front of your face. Bill Maher reminds everyone that socialism is not some dangerous foreign experiment waiting to sneak into America. It is already here, has been for decades. Public schools teaching your children every morning, that is socialism. Social security checks keeping your grandparents alive every month, that is socialism. Medicare paying hospital bills for millions of seniors, socialism again. Every highway you drive on, every bridge you cross, every public airport you have ever used, all socialism. So Bill Maher's question is the one nobody can cleanly answer. If the socialist framework is already working in these areas, why would anyone want to blow up the entire capitalist engine driving everything else? America has tools. The table is set. Bill Maher says stop complaining about the menu and start eating. The opportunity is sitting right there.
The top 10% pay 72% of all federal income taxes, and the bottom half, 3%. The Democratic Socialists talk about socialism like we don't already have a lot.
Bill Maher drops what might be his sharpest point of this entire conversation. And once you hear it, you genuinely cannot unhear it. His challenge is simple, surgical, almost brutally obvious. He asks, how exactly does America get better under socialism when the exact same broken politicians, the exact same incompetent bureaucrats, and the exact same career government failures are still the ones running everything? You change the label on the bottle. The poison inside is identical. Then Bill Maher pulls out the receipts. Exhibit A, New York City. Highest taxes in the entire country. And what did those taxes buy? Roads that look like a war zone, homeless people everywhere, residents escaping by the thousands. A Democratic Socialist is running that city. Results speak louder than slogans. Exhibit B, California. Bill Maher acknowledges Newsom is not technically a socialist. Fine, but look at what California has become under progressive leadership. And look at who wants to replace Newsom. Bill Maher is not hopeful at all.
How can it be that the federal government alone took in over $5 trillion in taxes last year, and we still need that? Are we really this incompetent and corrupt? Don't answer that. Whatever it is, somehow the ultra-rich keep getting ultra-richer, while a growing percentage is feeling truly desperate. You just wouldn't know it because everyone on TV is rich.
Bill Maher is furious, and this time he arrives with cold, hard, completely undeniable historical evidence that nobody can dismiss or spin. Here is what Bill Maher wants every socialism fan in America to sit with quietly. Under every single democratic socialist government that has ever risen to real power, the inequality gap they promised to eliminate did not get smaller. It got catastrophically, shockingly, almost unimaginably larger. The rich got richer, the connected insiders got protected, and everyone else got absolutely crushed. Bill Maher does not need theories. He just needs a history book. North Korea, a socialist paradise that somehow produced one of the most extreme wealth gaps on Earth, with a pampered ruling class and millions starving in darkness. Cuba, decades of socialist control and ordinary citizens still cannot access basic medicine. The Soviet Union, the grandest equality experiment ever attempted, and it collapsed so completely it disappeared from the map. Venezuela, the richest country in South America just 20 years ago, destroyed almost overnight by socialist policy. Bill Maher's verdict is not a political opinion. It is a historical pattern. Socialism does not spread wealth. It suffocates it every single time.
The DSA are radicals about this concept, and radical economic policy is always ineluctably married to radical social policy. Their platform, for example, calls for completely open borders. They're for what Biden was doing, but more. You think you're going to win an election on that? This just seems like more extremism at a time when Americans are begging both parties, please, could just one of you act normal?
Bill Maher is now raising an alarm that should genuinely stop every American cold, and the warning is chilling because the evidence is not hypothetical. It is already unfolding. Bill Maher says if Democratic Socialists ever gain real governing power in America, the immigration system does not just face pressure, it collapses entirely. Think about where things already stood. Under Biden and Harris, the southern border was already stretched past its breaking point. Overwhelmed facilities, record crossings, a border enforcement system running on fumes and prayer, and that was considered a full-blown crisis. Now Bill Maher asks you to imagine what happens when Democratic Socialists, who openly want to dismantle border enforcement completely, actually get control of those systems. Every remaining barrier gone, every enforcement mechanism gutted. The surge that follows would make the Biden border crisis look like a minor Tuesday afternoon inconvenience. Bill Maher is not exaggerating for effect. He is describing the logical, predictable, historically consistent outcome, and he says this country is nowhere near ready to handle it.
Half the country can buy access to concierge doctors, specialists, new treatments, personal trainers, nutritionists, private chefs, and whatever Gwyneth Paltrow is putting in her vagina.
Bill Maher is not guessing here. He is not projecting. He is reading the scoreboard, and the scoreboard says he is completely, undeniably correct. The math of taxing the wealthy into oblivion is not complicated. Push successful people hard enough, punish achievement relentlessly enough, and those people do not sit still and absorb the punishment like grateful citizens. They pack their bags, they move fast, and they take every dollar, every job, every business, and every tax contribution with them on the way out the door. This is not economics theory. This is happening right now in real time. New York and California, the two most aggressively taxed states in American history, are bleeding companies at a pace that should terrify every progressive politician. Businesses are relocating to Texas, to Florida, to Nevada, places that understand money rewards opportunity and flees from punishment. And taxes are not even the only weapon being used against success. Regulation, bureaucratic overreach, and red tape are finishing whatever the tax code started. The productive class is leaving, and they are not coming back.
Governor-elect Spanberger once said about Biden's presidency that, quote, nobody elected him to be FDR. They elected him to be normal. Normal. You know, at this year's DSA convention, or as it's commonly known, Comic-Con, get this, you had to submit a photo of a negative COVID test to get in. In 2025. Yeah, no one wants to do that shit again.
At the heart of everything Bill Maher is saying right now lives something deeper than politics. This is personal. This is grief. Bill Maher genuinely loves the Democratic Party, has loved it his entire adult life, defended it, argued for it, stood by it through every embarrassing moment. And right now, he is watching that party sleepwalk toward another catastrophic self-inflicted disaster, and the pain in his voice is absolutely unmistakable, because Bill Maher remembers exactly what happened last time the party went all in on an extreme ideological experiment, the woke era. The Democrats pushed gender politics so aggressively, so relentlessly, and so completely out of touch with mainstream America that moderate voters did not slowly drift away. They ran. The electoral defeat that followed was not surprising. It was inevitable. It was earned. And what lesson did the party absorb from that humiliation? Apparently nothing. Because rising straight from those ashes comes the next grand experiment, Democratic Socialism. Bill Maher cannot believe he is watching this happen again. Different costume, identical destruction. His party is sprinting toward a cliff it already fell off once.
These Democratic Socialists at another of their conventions, they were told to make jazz hands instead of clapping, lest some delegates suffer sensory overload. And also, and I'm not joking, they were told not to be wearing, any aggressive scents.
Please don't go into that space with anything that's like an aggressive scent, for instance, right? Because that's going to be difficult for people.
Oh, for fuck's sake. This... Really? This is who the Democrats are thinking of following? Chuck Schumer ain't perfect, but at least he doesn't crumple into a heap when confronted with Chanel number 5.
And there it is, the full picture. Bill Maher, comedian, lifelong liberal, loyal Democrat, standing knee-deep in the wreckage his own party keeps creating and refusing to stop ringing the alarm bell. His argument is not emotional. It is airtight. Bill Maher has shown, clearly and without a single gap in the evidence, that every large-scale socialist experiment in modern history has ended identically. Economic collapse, rampant corruption, wealth stripped from working people, and concentrated into the hands of a ruthless, untouchable few. Nations that were thriving before socialism arrived were left hollow, desperate, and unrecognizable after it took hold. Bill Maher sees the Democratic Party standing right now at the most important fork in its history. One road leads back towards sane, electable, practical leadership that actually resonates with real Americans and actually wins elections. The other road leads directly into the same socialist experiment that history has already run, already graded and failed without exception, every single time. Bill Maher's final message is 5 words that cut through everything. He knows exactly where this road ends. Do you?